If you asked Adolf Hitler in 1944 what was going to kill him, he probably would have said a Russian winter or a British Lancaster. He definitely would not have said boat builder from the Louisiana swamps. But that is exactly what happened. See, the US Navy spent years and millions of dollars trying to figure out how to land an army on a beach without getting everyone turned into Swiss cheese. Their solution? A fleet of slow, chunky bathtubs that were basically floating coffins. Then came the man, the myth, the legend, Andrew Jackson Higgins, a man who did not give a damn about naval tradition. He hired whoever could weld, and he built a boat so effective it turned the greatest defense in human history into simply a speed bump. Dwight D. Eisenhower, the man who ran the entire show, literally called him the man who won the war. Today, we're talking about the boat that won World War II, a 4x4 for the water that became the most important piece of industrial spite in American history. So Andrew Jackson Higgins was the kind of guy who would fire his own mother if she was 5 minutes late to work. Born in 1886, he was a self-taught, aggressive, and famously hard-headed entrepreneur based in New Orleans. He wasn't a Naval Academy graduate. He didn't have a chest full of ribbons. He had a warehouse, a lot of lumber, and a permanent grudge against anyone wearing a tie. In the 1930s, he was thinking about saving democracy. He was thinking about oil and timber. The Louisiana bayous are a nightmare for boaters. It's a shallow, stump-filled, muddy mess. If your boat was trash, the mud would eat it. So Higgins built the Eureka boat. It had a spoonbill bow and a hard chine hull. But the real magic was the recessed tunnel that protected the propeller from logs and gators. It didn't just float, it thrived on being abused. Imagine a boat that doesn't just float, it literally thrives on being beached. Higgins built a hull that could hit a mud bank at full throttle, sit there like it owned the damn place, and then back off into the water like it was covered in WD-40. He wasn't building a luxury cruiser. He was building a waterborne bulldozer. This was the DNA of the boat that won World War II. So while Higgins was dominating the swamps of Louisiana, the U.S. military was realizing they were about to have a very bad time in two different oceans. So before World War II, the U.S. amphibious capability was, I'll be polite and just say, non-existent. The Navy's early designs were slow, they were clunky. They were using boats where soldiers had to jump over the sides. Imagine having to climb over a 4-foot wall while wearing 60 pounds of gear and having an MG-42 trying to turn your torso into Swiss cheese. It was slow, it was chaotic, and it was a great way to lose a generation of men in the first wave. So the Marine Corps knew they needed a way to get tanks and men directly onto the sand and fast. So Higgins looked at the Navy's official design and basically told them that they were idiots. He knew his Eureka boat could beach itself and get off the beach again. He just needed a way to get the cargo out the front. Skip to 1937, a Marine officer named Victor Krulak was in China. He saw Japanese landing craft that had a ramp on the front. He brought the idea back to the Navy, and the Navy, being a bunch of bureaucrats with their heads stuck in their 19th century ass, ignored him. But Higgins didn't have an ego. He had a deadline. He took the ramp concept and married it to his swamp boat hull. The result of this was the LCVP, the Landing Craft Vehicle Personnel. The LCVP wasn't a boat, it was an exit sign for the Axis powers. You hit the sand, the ramp drops, 36 guys sprint out in 10 seconds, and the boat is already backing out to go get another round. It turned the chaos of a beach invasion into a high-speed industrial assembly line of violence. This is why historians call it the boat that won World War II. When the war kicked off, Higgins went nuclear. At his peak, Higgins Industries empowered over 20,000 workers. Higgins was a pragmatist. In a time of segregation, Higgins was hiring black workers, white workers, and women. He put them on the same floor, paid them the same wage, and just told them to build boats. He didn't do this because he was a social activist. He did this because he had 20,000 1,000 boats to build. He needed hands that could weld. He fought the Navy bureaucracy like they were the enemy themselves. When they tried to tell him his wood-hull boats were unseaworthy, he invited the admirals to a demonstration, ran his boat full speed over a rock wall, and then asked them if they wanted to see him do it again. He was the ultimate middle management nightmare who produced results so fast the government couldn't afford to fire him. June 6, 1944, Omaha Beach. If you've seen the opening of Saving Private Ryan, you've seen the Higgins boat. On D-Day, those ramps were the only thing standing between the Allied Army and the Atlantic Wall. Most of the first wave came ashore in LCVPs. Without that shallow draft, we could not have gotten anywhere close. Without that ramp, D-Day isn't a victory. It's a massacre. And that is not an exaggeration. This is the boat that won World War II. But the boat really earned its reputation in the Pacific. Island after island, Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Iwo Jima, Okinawa, the Pacific filled with coral reefs that would shred a normal boat's hull. But Higgins' swamp-bred DNA meant it could scrape right over the reefs that would leave a destroyer high and dry. The design meant for oil workers was now hauling the weight of the free world. The Higgins boat didn't just stop at the beach either. We used them for river crossings deep inside of Europe. When the Allied army reached the Rhine River, they took Higgins boats, put them on trailers, and drove them across France. Boat that was once carrying loggers in the bayous were now pushing Patton's army into the German homeland. It was not glamorous, just cold river water and a boat that refused to get stuck. This is what people mean when they say World War II was a war of logistics. Higgins industrialized the end of the Third Reich himself. So look, there you have it. A stubborn guy from New Orleans, a bottle of whiskey, and a boat designed for mud saved the world from tyranny. Andrew Higgins didn't just build a boat. He built a bridge to victory. But I want to hear from you guys. Do you agree with me and President Eisenhower that this was the boat that won World War II? Or do you guys have some other boring piece of tech that you think deserves the crown? Drop a comment down below and let me know your favorite crazy history moment where one stubborn person changed the course of a war. And if you want to see more stories about people being too angry to lose, the United States screwing up, or another country's military screwing up, hit the subscribe button. I'd love to hear your all stories. Cheers.